Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night. I hope you're all doing well. I'm tuning in after a little hiatus, both work and pleasure, coming back on to discuss some relevant topics of the moment. So, we are in this window of eclipse. It's the eclipse season, and it's always really potent energy to work with. To improve ourselves, do self development work, and to alchemize things that have come up for us during this window. It's always an opportunity to do more inner work that gives us more freedom, more spaciousness within, more mental clarity, more emotional stability. And so we have to work with these energies, really. And they're unique to us all. The topics and themes that come up for us are going to be unique to our path. And so we're, tuning into that energy just really helps us move forward on our path. And so there's a couple themes that have been coming up. One I wanted to discuss is related to our day and age, and some of the challenges or pitfalls that are associated with our inner development vis-a-vis having these, kind of these permanent social media profiles, right? Or online personas, or, whatever they're calling it these days with, digital avatars and all of that crap. But basically, my generation didn't have technology when we were younger, so we're able to differentiate the before and after. But the younger generation, for those tuning in, have seemed to always have had some sort of digital footprint, some sort of digital profile that they were measuring their progress upon, right? So if you're building up a YouTube channel, or you have a Facebook account or Instagram, and you've been posting photos, posting different content, it's sort of created this this profile of who you think you are in the world. Hopefully it was authentically attuned to who you are and who you're becoming. But nonetheless, there's this kind of, even though it's not permanent, there's this, path that people can go onto your profile, and they can look and they can see kind of where you've been and what you've been doing. And usually people sort of, once that builds, right, and there's some sort of substance to it, they kind of feel like that is who they are. And in that sense of self, it's very difficult to continuously evolve when the path brings you beyond that. When the knowledge you're gaining and what you're learning is bringing you beyond what you've created as, sometimes it's people's income, right? They build these personas and these identities that are bringing in income for them. And so on a real authentic spiritual level, when they evolve past those identities, there is this kind of, moment where they feel like they have to stick to, to that virtual path, to that digital identity that they've created, because who would they be if, they start posting content contrary to previous teachings or education or, knowledge they've had. And so this is a really interesting topic for our day and age, because in order to keep on evolving, often more often than not, that brings us beyond where we were previously, right? Evolution, we can stick to certain themes and certain topics in the content that we produce, but overall we are, often moving beyond that narrow pathway. And so this is, I think this is something that is relevant to where we are vis-a-vis technology and digital identities. And we're having to move. I think I'm bringing this information forward because I'm someone that has never measured myself against my digital identity, quote unquote. We can get into all of the nefarious side of technology and the data harvesting and all of that. But this audio in particular is really about like the personal relationship that we have with our digital identities and how to move beyond that and still maintain a sense of self, right? Because it's similar to, if you've developed in one career throughout your whole life and, you come into knowledge. For example, you're a psychologist, and then you come into knowledge that is so contrary to everything that you've learned within your education of psychology. Stepping outside of that can feel really scary and overwhelming because there's a sense of unknown and, loss of support from peers and colleagues. And how do we continue to evolve despite, that unknown, despite, the fool having to step off the cliff and, take on and hone the beginner's mind once again. So what I'm bringing forth is, my experience as someone who has constantly been allowing myself to evolve beyond what I've learned previously and, never really holding myself accountable to a digital identity and needing to stay within that. Like I allow myself to grow beyond who I've previously been. And this is the life path of transformation. I have Pluto on the ascendant, but, it's just... it's been the path of the alchemist, right? And when you're alchemizing things and you're open to learning and you're doing true spiritual development and you're evolving, you're going to move beyond who you previously were. So I've dropped tidbits here and there, crossing the Rubicon, which is, again, that concept of, once you allow yourself to evolve and put that information out there, you move into an unknown space and you potentially will lose, you'll lose the, potentially people have put you on pedestal, right? Because you've honed your craft and with specific knowledge and information that you're putting out. And now you're stepping outside of that, and all of the people that, were associating your identity to that information that you were putting out might say, hey, this person, is now putting out, they were in the spirituality community, now they're putting out information on psychology, or, they were in, they were like, putting out information on just self-development, and now they're, moving into this more artistic style and stretching themselves and discovering, crafts, right? Like creating things. And so people they end up pigeonholing themselves and getting closed into, they close themselves into digital identities that they've created for themselves, and that prevents them from evolving. Really what comes up here is, it's the pride, right? The fear of having to start over again, and just the, the negative aspects of the ego, which is, pride, not wanting to lose that support, that online support that they've had, driving information into one arena or one theme. And now bridging out means they have to go out on their own and start over again, right? But the process of starting over again is the process of evolution, right? There's nothing permanent in this world if we are walking in authenticity and we're walking in truth on our path. We can only, we're born with ourselves, we die with ourselves, and really what is permanent within us is our connection to that infinite aspect of self, to the eternal aspect of self. And that is what grows as we move forward and allow everything else, that we're evolving past to fade into the background, right? As we push up and we individuate further into a more evolved path. So there's never really a loss on the path of, of personal evolution, of spiritual evolution. And it's really about just focusing in on the courage to be able to take those steps for ourselves, and to not be afraid, to understand that the universe is always there to catch you if you are honoring what you are feeling, sensing, and if you're distilling, right, you're doing all the shadow work and you're doing all the personal development work, and you're distilling that in an authentic way, the universe will always support you in your movements forward. So I think this is relevant. I know that there's the axis of Aquarius and Leo with this eclipse, and this is part of it. Leo has a lot of pride in general, and is quite sensitive to the feedback that they get from their friends, community, online supporters. But the South Node is there, and the South Node is saying, "Hey, you've been here, you've done this, you've done the work, and now you're evolving beyond this, and it's okay to let go of things that you've, conclusions that you've come to, and even identities, digital identities that you've developed over time, over years, right? And to let go of that in order to stretch yourself, to grow further. Because when we don't do that for ourselves, what happens is we have a bunch of people that are not able to move forward, that are not able to continue to evolve, and then that holds back all of the people that are tuning into them, people that haven't come into their power yet and that are externalizing their own internal authority, projecting it onto these people. It holds them back too, right? And that's the responsibility of a true leader, of a true king or queen, or anyone sitting in their, in their throne, and really navigating through this world with integrity and authenticity. There is a certain amount of responsibility to the people that they've gathered around them, whether in a small group or in a large group. And this, ability to really call oneself out and say, I've stretched myself. I've grown within, this mindset and this identity, because we need the ego. We need to don the mask of the ego in order to even just, do a video or put out information into the world. And now I've come to a full, I've closed that full cycle with it. And I am moving on to something, I'm incorporating more information that will create sort of like, an instability in that identity. But it is my responsibility and duty to move forward with strength in that direction that I am being called in, because I want to continue to evolve. And as I continue to evolve, others continue to evolve, right? That are within my circle and that are within my sphere of influence. And so this whole Leo South Node, solar lunar eclipse, it's about our ability to see where we are growing, how we are growing, and what we are growing into, what we're evolving into, and not being stuck, through pride and fear to these identities that we've developed for ourselves. And the art of transformation, is all about just having the courage to walk forward towards that unknown, and to know there is more that I am here to learn. There is more that I have come to understand that I need to incorporate into this digital identity, right? Because this is really where we're at with society, and the information being pushed out. It doesn't matter what kind of channel you have. If you have some alternative news channel, it's all about breaking through these conditioned layers within the self and the programming to so that we can all evolve collectively. So this is the energy that's pushing forward, and it is creating destabilizing our idea of all these people in authority out in the world, and it's really asking everybody to move forward and evolve beyond what they've been projecting out and building for themselves for years and years, and that it's okay, that is a natural process. This is the natural process of life. And if we want to continue to evolve and increase our own awareness and really build that aspect of self, which is eternal, we have to understand the impermanence of these things, such as digital identities, or even careers that we've built on specific themes. And there's some great examples of people moving beyond and evolving beyond, and really incorporating all of the knowledge and lessons that they've learned through these cycles to say, yeah, you know what, I used to think like this, but now I understand that it's different, and that's going to continue to change. But being able to be transparent with that process, it really, really ripples out and allows the greater collectives to transform at the same time. So there's no loss with it, but it feels like a bit of a loss only for the ego identity, right? It's only the ego that wants to cling to what it feels safe in, right? To the identities that it feels safe in. But in honoring ourselves and honoring that eternal aspect that is always learning and growing, we need to, like, the ego is a wonderful servant and a horrible master, right? Like, we can't let the egos guide our actions in this world, right? It has to come from somewhere deeper. So these eclipses are really breaking down that aspect of ego which wants to cling to a previous identity, persona that it's built up in the world, that no longer represents who that soul is transforming into and becoming. And there's so much freedom that comes with, being the alchemist and allowing ourselves to transform into something greater. So, just feeling into this energy, I've been thinking about it, and I've been thinking about the challenges that I've been thinking about how, our day and age really put up more challenges around this process of transformation and development, because we have these kind of permanent, identities, which really imprison the person into, specific ways of speaking, specific ideas and concepts that they've been putting out and that they've been sharing, because it's out there, right? If you didn't have some sort of digital ID or some YouTube channel or, anything out there, the transformation would be more fluid, because you're not holding yourself up against that previous identity, right? You wouldn't be looking at that and saying, oh, it is so apparent how I'm changing, right? You would just change with the cycles and things would be fluid. It's a similar challenge to if you have put out a book, right? And then you continue to learn, information, and that information brings you to new insights and concepts that contradict information that you put out in previous books. The challenge is the same, right? There's kind of this resistance to wanting to grow. And that creates an internal conflict, because we all naturally evolve. That's just nature. That's just the cycles. And so we naturally evolve internally, and with this it's really again the ego, seeing, being able to see that contrast in real time externally really prevents people from taking that leap, right? Taking the fool's leap off the cliff to up level, right? To cross the Rubicon and to continue to evolve in an open, transparent, and public way. But I forget who it was. There was this quote. I'm really bad with remembering quotes, but there was this quote where it's better to be embarrassed in the moment than to be imprisoned, for a lifetime into a conditioning or concept or, specific identity. Like that feeling of embarrassment of, oh, I was wrong, right? Or, oh, I've evolved past this and I now think differently, is so fleeting. It's nothing, right? It's really nothing in the grand scope of our story of evolution. And it's in those moments when we feel embarrassed, or when we feel, the pride of the ego, that we really gain this internal strength when we face that authentically and we face those feelings, and we just allow ourselves to finally say, I was wrong, or I've included so much more in my internal process and the knowledge, the education that I'm getting. It's just, I'm including all of this information. There's just so much more. And like Anise Nin with the bud, finally the pressure of all of that growth, that internal growth, just opens and blooms the flower. This is the cycle, right? And there's always going to be a tension, right? And we'll feel that internal conflict building up as that bud is so tightly, held together, and it's going to bloom anyway. So because it's going to bloom anyway, and it's going to be apparent anyway, and if we try to hold that in, that's what creates, this internal pressure within the body that creates malaise and, all sorts of ailments. So just being present with where it is that we are up leveling, where it is that we need to grow, what information we've incorporated into our worldview that is now asking us to speak on different topics, include more viewpoints, right, from different knowledge, and being present with that and just allowing that to transform ourselves, to move forward and move beyond our previous self, right? To transform beyond the previous self, because the internal self is always the same. It's solid, it's eternal, right? We're just moving beyond these ego identities that contain, that allow us to interface and interact with the world. That is impermanent. So being present and facing the emotions, sitting with the emotions of what that pressure, those, the contradicting information of what you used to think and what you now think, what you used to believe and what you're now coming into the knowledge of and understanding and incorporating into your belief system, allowing those two to face each other and to become friends, and really just to allow yourself to evolve through that pressure, that internal pressure and the internal conflicts that's creating right now, to just blossom. Right? It sounds so simple, but it's just the ego that holds us back, nothing more. And the sense of instability, the sense of unknown that we encounter is only temporary. And as we cycle up and we spiral up, we get the opportunity to, restabilize parts of the ego identity to feel more secure with the new information that we're incorporating. But the whole process is about up-leveling, and coming into greater awareness and consciousness, bringing all that subconscious information forward really requires us to be strong in that eternal aspect, because the ego is, it's it's so volatile, right? Don't get attached to the ego identity. Don't get attached to your digital identities and, everything that you've created, because the universe will support you in your movement forward. When it's attuned, and it's attuned to integrity, authenticity, and a real sense of, that alchemist tunes into a real vibration of love, you are supported in that movement forward, and everybody else that is looking to you as a leader, as a friend, as just a peer, will up-level, at the same time. We're all in this together. Everybody is working, towards, we're in evolution together. So the eclipse is asking those leaders to transform, right, or die. It's this transform or die energy, and there's no need to fear this process, is really what I'm coming on to speak on. There's no need to fear this process at all. It is beautiful, it is natural, and it is liberating, right? And it is all about the bioregenesis. It is about increasing consciousness on this planet and getting things, into a better place on all these different levels for everybody. It just extends beyond this planet, truly. But we have to do it here first. And so this is what I'm bringing forward for this eclipse season. And I really hope this information has helped the people that it's needed to reach. And stay strong, tap into that eternal aspect of self, and allow yourself to just move beyond, cross the Rubicon, and, evolve past all of this previous, these previous identities that are no longer stand strong, right? That no longer are valid to where we are going. So you can reach me at inspiringplayfulevolution.com. I hope you're all doing well, and take care.